Bees know arithmetic. The little mind that thinks with numbers, a thrilling introduction. When we look at a small bee hovering among the flowers, it may never occur to us that it possesses a complex mental ability similar to what a child does in their early school years. The bee, whose brain size does not exceed the size of a pinhead, not only collects nectar and makes honey, but also does something more astonishing. Bees know arithmetic. Yes, they know counting and distinguishing between numbers, and that is used in making fateful decisions related to his life and the survival of the colony. This scientific fact overturned old concepts and forced scientists to redefine intelligence itself, the old idea about the insect mind. For many years, insects were viewed as creatures that operate according to a fixed, instinctive program, without thought or awareness, and their small brains were considered incapable of any complex mental processes. But modern experiments have proven that size does not determine intelligence, and that a little can be amazing. The bee's brain contains less than 1 million neurons compared to billions of cells in the human brain. Yet, this small brain can perform simple calculations and make precise decisions in record time. What does it mean that bees know arithmetic? That does not mean that bees solve mathematical problems on paper, but it means that they are able to count and distinguish between quantities and know the difference between 1, 2, and 3, and even understand the concept of zero in some experiments. The experiment that amazed the world. Scientists conducted experiments in which they placed bees in front of paths containing different shapes and asked them to choose the path that contains a certain number of elements in exchange for a food reward, and the bees were able to choose the correct number with amazing accuracy. Bees and numerical discrimination. Experiments have shown that bees can distinguish between two different groups of elements as long as the difference is clear, which is known as numerical discrimination. Counting during flight. Bees use counting during flight, as when they leave the hive they search for flowers and then return using the number of landmarks they have passed as signals to determine their location. The mathematical dance of bees. The famous bee dance is not just a random movement, but a complex system that transmits accurate information about the distance, direction, and number of food sources, as if the bee is sending an encrypted mathematical equation. The distance and numbers. The bee tells its colleagues about the distance of the food source through the number of vibrations in the dance. So the farther the distance, the greater the number of vibrations. Bees and the optimal choice. When bees are presented with two options, one of which contains a larger number of flowers, they prefer the option with the larger number, which indicates a clear quantitative awareness. Learning, not just instinct. The most surprising thing is that bees are not born with this ability fully, but they learn from trial and error and develop their performance over time. Bees and zero. In an amazing experiment, bees were trained to choose a group containing the smallest number of items, and they were able to choose the void, meaning zero, which indicates a primitive understanding of the concept of nothingness. Zero is not easy. Even human children need time to understand the concept of zero, yet bees were able to grasp it, which is an amazing mental achievement. Numerical memory. Bees possess short-term and long-term memory that enables them to remember the number of flowers they have visited and the number of trips they have made. Calculation for survival. The bee's ability to calculate is not a mental luxury, but a necessity for survival, as it helps it reduce effort and increase the efficiency of food gathering. Energy saving. The bee that calculates distance and number saves its energy and returns with the largest amount of nectar with the least effort. Teamwork and calculation. The bee colony works as a collective mind, where individual calculations complement each other to form a collective decision that serves everyone. Does all bees calculate? Most honeybees have shown this ability, while the accuracy varies between species, but the general principle is present: the calculation without written numbers. Bees do not need symbols or written numbers, but rather use sensory and temporal perception to achieve the goal. Intelligence does not require language. This fact proves that intelligence does not require the presence of a complex language, but can manifest in the simplest forms. Compared to humans, while humans need education and tools for calculation, bees do that with their instincts supported by learning. The astonishment of scientists. Neuroscientists have acknowledged that the numerical abilities of bees were unexpected and unprecedented in insects of this size. Redefining intelligence. These discoveries have forced scientists to reconsider the concept of intelligence and link it to function, not size. Bees are a source of inspiration for artificial intelligence. The computational capabilities of bees have inspired researchers to develop artificial intelligence algorithms that rely on simplicity and efficiency. A small mind, a big impact. Despite its small size, the bee plays an essential role in the ecosystem and directly affects human life. Respect for small creatures. Knowing that bees think and calculate makes us reconsider our dealings with insects. Do bees feel numbers or understand them? Bees do not understand numbers as we do, but they perceive quantities and the relationships between them. The difference between perception and abstract calculation. What bees do is a practical numerical perception that serves a specific purpose, not an abstract calculation. Practical intelligence. The intelligence of bees is an example of practical intelligence related to the environment and needs. The great message. Nature is full of silent minds that work in ways we do not see and do not appreciate as they should be. Inspiring conclusion. The bee teaches us a great lesson, which is that greatness is not measured by size, and that the true mind is the one that knows how to use the simplest tools to achieve the most complex results. When you see a bee hovering around a flower, remember that it is not only collecting nectar, but also calculating, thinking, and planning in amazing silence.